For 300 years, the Lost Fleet was one of the greatest mysteries in the galaxy. Thousands of ships had entered a dark region of space known as the Shadow Zone. They were the strongest fleet ever created by the Galactic Alliance. Their mission was simple: explore the unknown and return with answers. But they never came back. No distress call was received. No wreckage was found. No survivor was ever seen. It was as if the entire fleet had simply vanished. Over time, people stopped talking about them. New wars came, new leaders rose, the galaxy moved on. The Lost Fleet became a legend. Then everything changed. Far from the crowded worlds of the Alliance, a small listening station floated alone near the edge of known space. Most days were quiet, very quiet. Officer Liam Cross sat in front of a screen filled with endless signals. He sighed. "Another boring shift," he said. His partner Maya Trent laughed. "Be careful. Every time you say that, something strange happens." Liam smiled. "I wish." A few seconds later, a warning light suddenly flashed red. The smile disappeared from his face. "What was that?" Maya asked. Liam looked at the screen. His eyes widened. "I'm getting a transmission." Maya stood up immediately. "From where?" Liam checked the source. His face turned pale. "No way." "What?" "The signal is coming from the Shadow Zone." The room became silent. Nobody received signals from the Shadow Zone. Nobody. Maya stared at the screen. "That has to be a mistake." Liam shook his head. "It's not." The signal was weak. Broken, filled with static, but it was real. Within minutes, the station commander arrived. Scientists rushed into the room. Military officers joined the call. Everyone watched the screen. The mysterious transmission repeated again and again. The experts worked for hours. Piece by piece, they removed the static. Slowly, the hidden message appeared. The entire room held its breath. Commander Harris looked at the lead scientist. "Well?" The scientist swallowed. His hands were shaking. "We finally translated it. Read it." The scientist looked down at the report. Then he spoke, only 2 words. "Humans returned." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The room felt frozen. Commander Harris stared at him. "Say that again." The scientist took a deep breath. "The message says, humans returned." Shock spread across every face. Humans, the forgotten species. The species that had disappeared nearly 1,000 years ago. No one knew where they went. Some believed they were extinct. Others believed they had left the galaxy forever. Many thought they never existed at all. But now their name had appeared in a message from the Lost Fleet. It made no sense. Maya finally broke the silence. "Could it be fake?" The scientist shook his head. "The signal is authentic." Liam leaned forward. "Then who sent it?" Nobody had an answer. Hours later, the news reached the Galactic Council. Emergency meetings began immediately. Across hundreds of worlds, people watched special broadcasts. The entire galaxy wanted answers. But before anyone could find them, something even stranger happened. A second transmission arrived. This one was stronger, cleaner, more recent. Everyone gathered around the main screen. Commander Harris looked serious. "Play it," the recording started. Static filled the room. Then a voice appeared. Weak, tired, almost impossible to recognize. "This is Fleet Command ... The room went silent again. Fleet Command. The Lost Fleet. After 300 years. The voice continued. "If anyone receives this, do not ignore the warning." More static interrupted the message. Several words were lost. Then the signal returned. "They are waking up ... Fear spread across the room. Who was waking up? What was the warning? The voice spoke one final time. "Find the coordinates ... A series of numbers appeared on the screen. Then the transmission ended. Commander Harris immediately turned to his officers. "Trace those coordinates." A few moments later, the answer appeared. Several people gasped. The coordinates pointed deep inside the shadow zone, the exact area where the lost fleet had vanished centuries ago. Liam stared at the screen. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. The message was not asking for help. It sounded like a warning, as if someone was desperately trying to stop a disaster. 1 hour later, the Galactic Council made its decision. A special mission would enter the Shadow Zone. The mission leader would be one of the Alliance's best commanders, Captain Rena Valaris. She arrived at the station the next morning, tall, calm, and fearless. She listened carefully to every detail. When the briefing ended, she looked at the coordinates. "You really believe the Lost Fleet sent this?" Commander Harris nodded. "Yes. And the message about humans? We confirmed it multiple times." Rena remained silent for a moment. Then she looked out the window toward the endless darkness of space. Something was waiting there. She could feel it. Finally, she spoke. "Prepare my ship." The commander frowned. "You understand the risks?" Rena smiled slightly. "If the Lost Fleet survived for 300 years, I want to know how. And if they didn't?" Her smile disappeared. "Then I want to know what destroyed them." 2 days later, her ship crossed the border of known space. The Shadow Zone stood ahead like a wall of darkness. Every crew member felt nervous. Every sensor showed strange readings. As the ship moved deeper into the darkness, the bridge lights suddenly flickered. An alarm echoed through the ship. An officer looked up in shock. "Captain, what is it?" The officer's face turned white. "I'm detecting thousands of signals." Rena stood up. "Thousands?" "Yes, Captain." "Where are they coming from?" The officer slowly turned toward her. Fear filled his eyes. "They're surrounding us." The bridge fell silent. Then another message appeared across every screen on the ship. Only 5 words. "Do not let them wake." And then, every signal disappeared. The message vanished. Every screen on Captain Rena Valaris' ship went dark for a few seconds. The bridge was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Thousands of signals had appeared from nowhere. Then they had disappeared just as quickly. Only one warning remained in everyone's mind. "Do not let them wake." Rena looked at her officers. "Scan the area again." The crew immediately got to work. A few moments later, the sensor officer frowned. "Captain ... I'm detecting objects ahead." "What kind of objects?" The officer swallowed. "Ships." Rena stood up. "How many?" The officer looked at the numbers twice, then 3 times. His voice became quiet. "Thousands." The bridge became silent again. No fleet that large should exist. Not here. Not inside the Shadow Zone. "Move closer," Rena ordered. Her ship slowly entered the darkness. As they approached, the truth became clear. Everyone stared in shock. Ships. Everywhere. Thousands of them. Some were huge warships. Others were small explorers. Many belonged to species that no longer existed. The dark space ahead looked like a giant graveyard. A graveyard of lost civilizations. Maya, one of the science officers, looked at the screen. "This is impossible." Rena nodded slowly. "How old are they?" The answer came seconds later. "Some are over 500 years old." Another officer looked confused. "Captain, I'm detecting ships from at least 50 different species." 50? Yes. Rena felt a chill. This was no accident. Something had brought all these ships here. Something had trapped them. The fleet moved carefully between the silent wrecks. There were no signs of battle, no laser damage, no explosions, no destroyed hulls. The ships looked almost untouched, as if their crews had simply vanished. Maya stared at one ancient vessel. What happened to them? Nobody knew. Hours passed as they explored deeper into the graveyard. Then another signal appeared. Weak, very weak. "Captain, I'm receiving a distress beacon." Rena quickly turned. "A survivor? Maybe. Track it." The beacon led them toward an old Alliance cruiser. One of the ships from the Lost Fleet. The entire bridge became excited. After 300 years, they might finally find answers. A boarding team was prepared immediately. Rena decided to lead it herself. Minutes later, the team entered the ancient cruiser. The inside was dark, cold, silent. Dust floated through the air. Their flashlights cut through the darkness. Everything looked frozen in time. Tables still held unfinished meals. Personal items remained exactly where they had been left. It looked as if the crew had vanished in the middle of an ordinary day. One soldier whispered, "I don't like this place." Rena understood why. Something felt wrong, very wrong. They continued moving through the ship. Finally, they reached the bridge. Everyone stopped. Rows of empty seats faced the main screen. The captain's chair sat untouched. But there was no crew. No bodies, nothing. The ship was completely empty. Maya looked around. It's like they disappeared. Before anyone could respond, another alarm sounded. "Captain," the voice came from her communicator. "What is it?" The officer on the main ship sounded nervous. "You need to return immediately." "Why?" A long pause followed. Then the officer answered. "We found something." Rena and her team rushed back. When they returned to their ship, every crew member was staring through the front window. Rena followed their gaze and froze. Far ahead, hidden behind clouds of dark space dust, stood an object so large that it blocked entire sections of the stars. Nobody spoke. Nobody could. The structure was enormous, larger than any station ever built, larger than some moons. Its surface was covered with strange patterns and glowing lines. It looked ancient, older than anything the Alliance had ever discovered. Maya's voice shook. "What is that?" The science team worked quickly. A few minutes later, the answer arrived. The results made everyone's blood run cold. Captain ... What? "We found symbols on the structure." Rena looked at him. "What kind of symbols?" The scientist hesitated. Then he placed the image on the main screen. The entire bridge stared at it. A simple symbol. A symbol recorded only in forgotten history files. A symbol that belonged to one species, humans. The bridge exploded with questions. "That's impossible. Humans disappeared 1,000 years ago. How could they build something this large?" Rena remained silent. Her eyes stayed fixed on the symbol. The message from the lost fleet suddenly felt much more real. Humans returned. Maybe it was not a warning. Maybe it was a fact. Then another report arrived. The scientist looked terrified. "Captain ... There is more." Rena turned toward him. "What now?" "The structure isn't abandoned." The bridge became silent. Rena slowly walked closer. "What do you mean?" The scientist pointed at the screen. Thousands of energy readings suddenly appeared across the structure. Lights began turning on. One by one, like a giant machine waking from a long sleep. Then a deep vibration shook Rena's ship. The entire structure began to move. Ancient doors, each larger than a city, slowly started opening. Darkness waited beyond them. A darkness deeper than space itself. Suddenly, every system on the ship flashed red. An unknown signal entered their network. No firewall could stop it. No security system could block it. A single sentence appeared across every screen, every monitor, every device, every control panel. The crew stared in disbelief. The message contained only 4 words: "Human authorization accepted." Then, somewhere inside the giant structure, something opened for the first time in 1,000 years. For a few seconds, nobody on Captain Rena Valaris's ship could speak. The giant structure continued to wake up. Ancient lights glowed across its surface. Massive doors slowly opened. And the message remained on every screen. "Human authorization accepted." The words made no sense. There were no humans on the ship. At least, that was what everyone believed. Rena forced herself to stay calm. "Report." The bridge immediately came alive. "Energy levels are increasing. Unknown systems are activating. We're receiving thousands of data signals. Another officer looked terrified. Captain ... Something inside that structure is scanning us. Rena narrowed her eyes. Can it identify our ship? No. Can it identify our species? The officer checked his screen. Then his face became pale. It already knows. A cold feeling spread across the bridge. The structure was not just awake, it was aware, very aware. Rena looked at the enormous opening ahead. Beyond the doors was darkness. Not normal darkness, it looked deeper, almost alive. As if space itself had been hollowed out. Maya stared at the screen. I've never seen anything like this. Neither had anyone else. The science team worked without stopping. Finally, one of them spoke. Captain, we found a safe route inside. Rena looked surprised. A safe route? Yes. The route had suddenly appeared in their navigation system. Nobody had entered it. Nobody had created it. Something inside the structure had sent it directly to their ship. The bridge became silent again. Maya looked nervous. It wants us to enter. Rena already knew that. The real question was why. Several officers advised retreat. Others wanted to investigate. The debate lasted only a minute. Then Rena made her decision. We're going in. Nobody argued. The ship slowly moved toward the opening. As they crossed the threshold, every sensor immediately failed. Stars disappeared. Communications vanished. Even time measurements became unstable. One officer stared at his monitor. Captain, according to my instruments, we are moving and standing still at the same time. Another officer looked equally confused. My clock just lost 17 minutes. Fear spread through the bridge. This place ignored the normal laws of physics. The deeper they traveled, the stranger everything became. Huge metallic walls stretched endlessly in every direction. Some sections looked damaged. Others looked completely untouched despite their incredible age. Then they found something unexpected. A ship, not outside. Inside, floating silently in a massive chamber. The bridge zoomed in. Everyone recognized it instantly. A lost fleet vessel. One of the missing ships. After 300 years, they had finally found one. Rena immediately ordered a boarding mission. This time the team entered carefully. The ship appeared intact. No battle damage. No signs of destruction. Yet something felt wrong, very wrong. The halls were empty. The rooms were empty. The bridge was empty. Just like before. But this time they discovered something new. A recording. The ship's final log. Maya quickly restored the damaged file. A human face did not appear. Instead, the image showed an Alliance captain. His uniform matched records from 3 centuries ago. The captain looked exhausted, terrified. Behind him, alarms echoed through the ship. The recording began. If anyone finds this ... Static interrupted his voice. Then the image returned. We were wrong. Everyone listened carefully. The captain continued. The structure is not a weapon, more static. It is a prison. Several crew members exchanged nervous looks. The captain's breathing became heavier. They told us to stay away. Another burst of interference crossed the screen. We should have listened. The captain looked behind him. Fear filled his eyes, pure fear. The kind of fear people feel when they see something impossible. Then he spoke his final words. They are waking up. The recording ended. Silence filled the room. Nobody spoke. Nobody needed to. Everyone remembered the warning from the transmission. Do not let them wake. The words suddenly carried much more weight. Back aboard the main ship, the science team continued scanning the structure. Minutes later, another discovery arrived. This one was even worse. Captain, Maya said quietly. You need to see this. A giant holographic map appeared above the bridge. It displayed the entire structure. Thousands of chambers, thousands of sealed sections, thousands of energy sources. Then Maya highlighted one area. The room became silent. What am I looking at? Rena asked. Maya swallowed. These are containment chambers. Containment for what? No idea. Rena studied the readings. There were millions of chambers, millions. Whatever this prison contained, there was not just one prisoner. There were countless prisoners. Then another officer interrupted. "Captain, we found ancient records. Can you translate them? We're trying." Several tense minutes passed. Finally, the translation software succeeded. The first line appeared. Every person on the bridge stared at it. Constructed by humanity, the second line appeared. Primary purpose: Galactic Containment Facility. Maya's eyes widened. Humans built this. Rena nodded slowly. The evidence was becoming impossible to deny. Humans had not disappeared. They had hidden themselves. And they had built something so enormous that it could imprison an unknown threat for over 1,000 years. Then the final line appeared. The bridge became completely silent. Even the ship's engines seemed quieter. Nobody could believe what they were reading. Current prison status: stable. Everyone relaxed slightly. Until the screen updated. The word stable disappeared. A new word replaced it. Warning: another update followed. Containment failure detected. No one moved. No one breathed. A third update appeared. Failure level increasing. Then the structure itself began to shake. Not just a small vibration. The entire megastructure trembled. Ancient alarms echoed through endless corridors. Red warning lights activated everywhere. Millions of them, like a sleeping giant opening its eyes. Then a new signal arrived. Unlike the others, this one was perfectly clear. The voice was calm, cold, not human, not alien. Something else, something ancient. The voice spoke only one sentence. "We have waited a very long time." The transmission ended. And somewhere deep inside the prison, the first cell opened. The moment the transmission ended, a deep sound echoed through the giant prison. It was not an alarm. It was not a machine. It sounded like something moving, something enormous. Captain Rena Valores felt a chill run down her spine. The sound seemed to come from everywhere at once. The walls vibrated. The floor trembled. Even the air inside the ship felt heavier. Then another warning appeared across every screen. Containment failure confirmed. Nobody spoke. The crew simply stared. For 1,000 years, this place had remained sealed. For 1,000 years, humanity had kept something locked away. And now, for the first time, a cell had opened. Rena turned toward her officers. "Can we identify what escaped?" The answer came quickly. "No, Captain." "Can we track it?" Again, the answer was no. The sensors could not find anything. It was as if the escaped prisoner did not exist. And yet everyone could feel that something had changed. Something was now loose inside the prison. Then a new signal appeared. This time it came from deeper inside the structure. An automated message. A human voice, calm and professional. Emergency Protocol 7 activated. The crew listened carefully. "Attention. If you are receiving this message, containment has failed." The bridge became silent. The voice continued. "Leave immediately." Several crew members exchanged nervous looks. The recording paused. Then it spoke again. "Do not search for survivors." Another pause. "Do not attempt rescue operations." Rena frowned. That made no sense. Why would a prison warning people not to rescue survivors? Then the final sentence arrived. And every person on the bridge felt fear. "If any containment chamber opens, it is already too late." The message ended. No further explanation. No details. Only a warning. Rena stared at the dark screen. What were humans keeping in here? Nobody knew. Hours passed as the ship moved deeper into the structure. Every chamber they passed remained sealed. Every corridor appeared empty, but strange things began happening. At first, they were small. A crew member reported hearing whispers inside an empty room. Another claimed he saw someone standing at the end of a hallway. Security cameras showed nothing. Then things became worse. One engineer suddenly screamed during a routine inspection. When security arrived, they found him frozen in place. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. "What happened?" a guard asked. The engineer pointed toward a wall. "There was someone there." The wall was empty. "No one is here." The engineer slowly shook his head. "You don't understand." His voice trembled. "It knew my name." The entire room became silent. Security reviewed every recording. Nothing appeared on camera. Yet the engineer refused to change his story. He insisted something had spoken to him. Something invisible, something watching. Back on the bridge, Maya looked worried. "Captain, I think we're dealing with something far beyond our understanding," Rena nodded. She was beginning to think the same thing. Then the sensors detected movement, real movement. Not a malfunction, not a ghost signal. Something was traveling through the prison, fast, very fast. The object crossed hundreds of kilometers in seconds. "Track it," Rena ordered. The crew tried. But the object kept disappearing, reappearing, changing direction, ignoring the laws of physics. The sensor officer looked terrified. "It shouldn't be able to move like that." Rena stared at the screen. "Where is it going?" The officer checked again. His face turned white. "It's heading toward another containment sector." Before anyone could react, the entire structure shook violently. Red lights flashed everywhere. Ancient alarms echoed across endless chambers. Then a second warning appeared. Containment breach detected. The bridge fell silent. A second cell had opened. Whatever escaped from the first chamber was now freeing others. Rena clenched her fists. This was becoming a disaster. Then another discovery arrived. One of the science teams had finally translated more human records. The files were damaged. Most information was missing. But one section remained readable. Maya opened it immediately. A holographic image appeared above the bridge. For the first time, the crew saw a human. Not a statue, not a symbol. A real human recording. The man wore a dark military uniform. His expression was serious. Behind him stood massive stars and giant warships. The recording began. "My name is Admiral Marcus Hawley." The bridge remained silent. "We created this prison because we had no other choice." The admiral looked tired, as if he had carried a burden for many years. "The beings inside these chambers cannot be destroyed." Several officers looked shocked. The admiral continued. "We fought them for centuries." Images appeared behind him. Entire planets burning. Massive fleets exploding. Civilizations collapsing. The crew watched in horror. "We won every battle." The admiral paused, but they always returned. The images changed again. More destruction. More death. More worlds lost. Finally, the admiral spoke the words nobody wanted to hear. "They are older than our species." The bridge became silent. "They are older than your species." His eyes seemed to stare directly at the future. Directly at Rena. Directly at everyone watching. Then came the final warning. "If you are seeing this recording, the prison has failed." The admiral lowered his head. For the first time, fear appeared on his face. Not panic. Not terror. Something worse. Acceptance. "The galaxy has run out of time." The recording ended. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The room felt colder than before. Then every screen on the ship suddenly went black, one by one. Control panels, monitors, navigation systems. Everything. A single image appeared. A star, bright and beautiful. Then the star suddenly vanished. Simply vanished. As if it had never existed. The crew stared in shock. "What was that?" someone whispered. A transmission immediately followed. An Alliance monitoring station from another sector. The operator looked terrified. His voice shook as he spoke. "Emergency report." Static filled the channel. Then the operator forced the words out. A star system just disappeared. The bridge froze. Rena felt her heart sink. Entire star systems did not disappear. It was impossible. The operator continued. "We lost 3 planets." Another pause. "We lost billions." The signal cut out. Silence returned. Then a new message appeared on every screen inside the prison. Only 6 words. The harvest has begun again. And somewhere beyond the prison walls, something ancient was finally awake. The words remained on every screen. The harvest has begun again. No one on Captain Rena Valaris's ship could look away. A star system had vanished. 3 planets were gone. Billions of lives had disappeared in seconds. And somewhere beyond the prison, an ancient enemy was awake. For the first time since entering the Shadow Zone, fear spread through the entire crew. Not fear of death, fear of the unknown. Rena stood silently on the bridge. Her mind raced through every possibility. None of them were good. Then another alarm sounded. This one was different. The sensor officer jumped from his chair. "Captain!" Rena turned immediately. "What is it?" The officer stared at his screen. His face showed complete disbelief. "I'm detecting a fleet." The bridge became silent. "A fleet?" Rena asked. "Yes." "How many ships?" The officer swallowed. "Thousands." A nervous laugh escaped from another crew member. "Another ghost fleet?" The sensor officer slowly shook his head. "No." His voice became quieter. "These ships are active." Every person on the bridge froze. Active, not abandoned. Not destroyed. Active. Rena stepped closer. "Show me." The main screen changed. Dark space filled the display. At first nothing appeared. Then lights emerged from the darkness. 1, 10, 100. Thousands. The stars themselves seemed to move. Massive warships slowly appeared from deep space. Ships larger than anything in the Galactic Alliance. Their designs were unfamiliar. Their technology looked impossible. Yet one thing stood out immediately. A symbol. A symbol every person on the bridge now recognized. The human symbol. Nobody spoke. Nobody needed to. The message had been true all along. Humans had returned. The giant fleet moved with perfect formation. Thousands of ships. Not a single mistake. Not a single delay. Like one living machine. Then every Alliance communication system activated. An incoming transmission appeared. The bridge held its breath. The screen flickered. A face appeared. Human. A real human. For the first time in nearly 1,000 years. The man looked older than Rena expected. Gray hair, sharp eyes, a calm expression. He wore a dark military uniform marked with symbols nobody recognized. The human studied the bridge for several seconds. Then he spoke. "Identify yourselves." His voice was calm, confident, like someone who feared nothing. Rena stepped forward. "I am Captain Rena Valaris of the Galactic Alliance." The human nodded slowly. "So the Alliance survived," Rena frowned. "You know about us?" A small smile appeared on the man's face. "We know far more than you realize." The bridge became silent. Rena looked directly at him. "Who are you?" The human answered immediately. "Admiral Ethan Ward." The name meant nothing to the crew, but the confidence behind it was impossible to ignore. Rena took a breath. "The prison is failing." The Admiral's expression became serious. "We know." A heavy silence followed. Then Rena asked the question everyone wanted answered. "Where have humans been?" The Admiral looked away briefly, as if remembering something painful. When he spoke again, his voice sounded tired. "Fighting." The single word shocked everyone. "Fighting what?" Maya asked. The Admiral looked directly into the camera. "The same enemy you just released." The bridge became silent. Rena felt her stomach tighten. "How long?" The Admiral answered immediately. 973 years. Nobody moved. Nobody even blinked. Nearly 1,000 years. Humans had been fighting this war alone for almost a millennium. The Admiral continued. "After building the prison, humanity understood one thing." His eyes darkened. The enemy would eventually escape. Images suddenly appeared beside him. Massive battles. Destroyed fleets. Burning stars. Entire worlds reduced to dust. The crew watched in horror. "So humanity disappeared?" Rena asked. The admiral shook his head. No. Another image appeared. Hidden shipyards. Secret colonies. Gigantic fleets. Human civilization had not vanished. It had moved. It had prepared. For almost 1,000 years. We became the shield standing between the galaxy and extinction. Nobody on the bridge knew what to say. Everything they believed about human history was wrong. Then another officer interrupted. "Captain," his voice shook. "What is it?" The officer looked terrified. "We're receiving another signal. From where?" He checked twice, then answered, "From the lost fleet." The room froze. Rena immediately turned. "Play it." The transmission appeared. This time the image was clear. Very clear, the crew gasped. Hundreds of people stood inside. A massive hangar. Men. Children. Alliance citizens. Alive after 300 years. Alive. Maya covered her mouth. It can't be. But it was. The lost fleet had survived. A man stepped toward the camera. His uniform was old, very old, yet his eyes burned with determination. "We are the survivors of the lost fleet." The bridge watched in disbelief. The man continued. "The humans found us centuries ago." Another shockwave moved through the crew. The humans had known about them all this time. "We fought beside humanity." The survivor looked exhausted. Older, wiser, changed by centuries of war. "We stayed because someone had to help hold the line." Rena stared at the screen. 300 years lost. 300 years spent fighting a hidden war. Then the survivor's face became serious. "If you're seeing this, the line has broken." The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge. Nobody knew what to think. The lost fleet was alive. Humans were alive. Everything was changing. Then Admiral Ward's face returned. His expression was darker than before. Much darker. Rena immediately noticed. What happened? The Admiral remained silent for several seconds. Finally he answered. "The enemy reached one of our defense sectors. Can you stop them?" The Admiral looked away. That answer alone terrified the bridge. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "We already tried." Rena felt a cold knot form in her stomach. The Admiral slowly looked back toward the camera. For the first time, the confident human commander seemed tired. Not physically, emotionally, like someone carrying the weight of 1,000 years. Then he delivered the words nobody expected. The words that made every person on the bridge freeze. The words that changed everything. "We are losing." Silence. Complete silence. Humanity. The species that had fought for nearly 1,000 years. The species that built impossible fleets. The species that created a prison large enough to hold cosmic horrors. They were losing. Then alarms exploded across every human ship visible on the screen. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Officers rushed through command centers. Something was happening. Something bad. Admiral Ward turned toward someone off-screen. His face instantly changed. Fear. Real fear. Then he looked back at Rena. "Captain." His voice was urgent now. "What is it?" she asked. The Admiral swallowed. A massive explosion shook the background behind him. Then he spoke 4 words. "They've found Earth." The transmission cut out. The transmission ended. For several seconds, nobody on Captain Rena Valaris's bridge moved. Nobody spoke. The last words of Admiral Ethan Ward echoed through everyone's mind. "They've found Earth." The room felt frozen. Earth, the birthplace of humanity. The world that had vanished from history nearly 1,000 years ago. The world many species believed was only a myth. And now it was under attack. Rena looked toward the communication officer. "Re-establish contact." The officer worked quickly. Seconds passed. Then minutes. Nothing. The signal was gone. The human fleet had disappeared from every channel. It was as if they had been swallowed by the darkness. Then another alarm sounded. The sensor officer jumped to his feet. "Captain, the human fleet is moving." "Where?" The officer enlarged a star map. Thousands of human ships were accelerating toward a distant region of space, toward Earth, and they were moving faster than anything the Alliance had ever seen. Rena watched the map carefully. The human fleet wasn't retreating. It was rushing into battle. Then Maya stepped forward. "Captain, look at this." A new report appeared. Long-range scanners were detecting strange energy waves spreading across nearby sectors. Entire communication networks were failing. Navigation systems were shutting down. Colonies were going silent, one by one. The enemy was expanding. Fast, too fast. Rena clenched her fists. If Earth falls, what happens? Nobody answered. Because everyone already knew. If humanity could not stop the enemy at Earth, there might be nothing left to stop them anywhere else. Then a priority transmission arrived. The Galactic Council. The emergency meeting began immediately. Leaders from hundreds of species appeared across the screen. Many looked frightened. Others looked angry. One council member pointed directly at Rena. "This disaster began when your mission entered the prison." Another quickly interrupted. "Blaming her won't save us." The argument exploded across the chamber. Everyone wanted answers. Nobody had solutions. Then suddenly a new signal forced its way into the meeting. The connection bypassed every security system. Every screen changed. Admiral Ethan Ward appeared once again. Behind him, chaos filled a massive command center. Human officers rushed between stations. Warning alarms flashed everywhere. The battle had already begun. The council chamber fell silent. The Admiral wasted no time. "You have one choice." Every leader listened. "Unite your fleets." One council member frowned. "You expect us to place our military under human command?" The Admiral's eyes hardened. "You can argue about politics." He pointed toward the stars visible behind him. "Or you can survive." Nobody responded, because deep down they knew he was right. The enemy did not care about borders. The enemy did not care about species. The enemy wanted everything. The Admiral activated a hologram. The image showed hundreds of star systems. Many were already dark, gone, consumed. Gasps filled the council chamber. A leader whispered, "Impossible." The Admiral shook his head. "No." His voice sounded cold. "This is only the beginning." Then another image appeared. This one showed Earth. The room became silent. For the first time, the galaxy saw humanity's hidden homeworld. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. Beautiful, peaceful, alive. But surrounding it were thousands of enemy contacts. An endless sea of darkness. Rena stared at the display. The enemy fleet looked larger than entire civilizations. How could anyone fight something like that? Then Admiral Ward spoke again. "Every available human ship is moving to Earth." One council member looked hopeful. "Will it be enough?" The Admiral remained silent. That silence gave everyone their answer. No, it would not be enough. Then the image suddenly changed. A massive explosion appeared near Earth. One human defense station vanished instantly. Then another. Then another. The enemy was breaking through. The battle had begun. Across the galaxy, millions watched the live reports. For the first time in history, every species stood united in fear. Then something unexpected happened. One by one, Alliance fleets began transmitting messages. A commander from a reptilian world stepped forward. "We're joining the fight," another fleet answered. "So are we." Then another, and another. Soon hundreds of fleets were volunteering. Species that had hated each other for centuries suddenly stood together, not because they trusted one another, because they had no choice. Humanity had protected the galaxy for nearly 1,000 years. Now the galaxy would stand beside humanity. Rena smiled slightly. For the first time since entering the prison, she felt hope. Then Maya noticed something strange. "Captain," Rena turned. "What is it?" Maya pointed toward a hidden section of the battle map. There. At first Rena didn't understand. Then she saw it. A cluster of signals, human signals. But they weren't moving toward Earth. They were moving away from it. Deep into unknown space. Rena frowned. Why? Nobody knew. A moment later, another encrypted transmission arrived from Admiral Ward. This one was addressed only to Alliance commanders. Rena opened it. The Admiral appeared. His face looked exhausted. But his eyes remained focused. There is something you need to know. The room became silent. The fleets moving away from Earth are carrying our final contingency. Rena's heart sank. Final contingency. Those words never meant anything good. The Admiral continued. For 1,000 years, humanity prepared for this possibility. Images appeared behind him. Gigantic structures hidden in deep space. Machines larger than planets. Weapons beyond imagination. The crew stared in disbelief. What are those? Maya whispered. The Admiral answered. Our last defense. Then his expression darkened. We hoped we would never use them. A long silence followed. Finally, Rena asked the question everyone feared. What happens if you activate them? The Admiral closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, they seemed older, much older. Then he spoke. If we use them ... His voice became quiet. Earth will not survive. The bridge fell silent. Complete silence. The birthplace of humanity, the center of their civilization. The world they had protected for 1,000 years. Humanity was preparing to sacrifice it. Then suddenly every alarm on the bridge activated. Emergency warnings filled every screen. A new message appeared from the battle near Earth. The enemy had broken through the final defensive line. And somewhere across the stars, the countdown to humanity's last weapon had begun. The countdown had begun. Across the galaxy, billions watched in silence. Every screen, every station, every world. The same numbers appeared. 0 hours 59 minutes and 59 seconds, 1 hour. Only 1 hour remained before humanity activated its final weapon. No one knew exactly what the weapon was. No one knew how it worked. But everyone knew one thing. If humans were willing to sacrifice Earth to use it, then it was something beyond imagination. Captain Rena Valoris stood on the bridge of her ship and stared at the timer. The galaxy's fate now depended on a single decision. Far away, near Earth, the battle had become a nightmare. Human warships exploded across the darkness. Entire fleets vanished every minute. The enemy kept advancing, endless, relentless, like a living storm consuming everything in its path. Yet humanity continued fighting. Not a single ship retreated. Not a single commander surrendered. For nearly 1,000 years, they had stood between the galaxy and extinction. And now they were making their final stand. A transmission suddenly arrived. Admiral Ethan Ward appeared on every screen across known space. For the first time, every species watched him together. The old human looked exhausted. His uniform was damaged. The command center behind him shook from distant explosions. Still, he stood tall. Still, he refused to break. My name is Admiral Ethan Ward. His voice echoed through the galaxy. For centuries, humanity remained hidden. Images appeared behind him. Ancient human colonies. Hidden shipyards. Massive fleets under construction. Children growing up beneath distant stars. Humanity had never disappeared. It had simply chosen duty over recognition. We did not hide because we were afraid. Another image appeared. Human fleets fighting impossible battles, worlds being evacuated, civilizations being saved. We hid because someone needed to stand guard. Millions watched in silence. Many species had once believed humans abandoned the galaxy. Now they understood the truth. Humanity had sacrificed everything to protect them. The Admiral continued. We knew this day would come. His eyes hardened. We hoped we would be wrong. A pause followed. But we were not. The image behind him changed. The enemy fleet filled the stars around Earth. It looked endless. A darkness stretching beyond sight. Then Admiral Ward smiled. A small smile, a tired smile, but a real one. And that is why we prepared. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, every military commander received a classified file. Rena opened it immediately. Her eyes widened, then widened even more. The file revealed humanity's final secret. For 1,000 years, humans had not been building a weapon. They had been building a trap larger than the ancient prison, a trap hidden inside space itself. The final weapon was not designed to destroy the enemy. It was designed to imprison them forever, but there was a cost, a terrible cost. The trap would collapse an entire region of space. Earth would be inside the collapse zone. Every human colony nearby would be lost. The sacrifice would be permanent. Maya stared at the file. They're really going to do it. Rena nodded slowly. Yes, then another transmission arrived. This time from the survivors of the lost fleet. The old commander who had appeared earlier stood before the camera. Behind him stood thousands of soldiers. Alliance soldiers, humans, different species, all standing together. We fought beside humanity for 300 years. His voice was steady. We know what they sacrificed. He looked directly into the camera, and today we stand with them. Moments later, hundreds of fleets changed course. They accelerated toward Earth, not to escape. To fight, the greatest armada in galactic history was finally united. Species that had once been enemies now stood side by side. For the first time, the galaxy fought as one. The final battle began. The stars themselves seemed to shake. Countless weapons fired across the darkness. Entire fleets collided. Explosions illuminated space like newborn suns. Yet despite everything, the enemy kept advancing, minute by minute, second by second, closer to Earth, closer to victory. Then the countdown reached its final moments. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 10 seconds. Every person watching held their breath. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 9 seconds. Human ships formed a protective wall around Earth. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 8 seconds. The enemy surged forward. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 7 seconds. Alliance fleets joined the line. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 6 seconds. The stars trembled. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 5 seconds. Admiral Ward returned to the screen. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 4 seconds. He looked directly at the camera. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 3 seconds. His expression was peaceful. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 2 seconds. No fear remained. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 1 second. Then he spoke his final words. For humanity. The countdown reached 0. A flash brighter than 1,000 suns exploded across the stars. Then silence. Complete silence. The battle vanished. The enemy vanished. Earth vanished. An entire region of space disappeared from every sensor in the galaxy. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Minutes passed, then hours. Finally, long-range scanners confirmed the truth. The enemy was gone. The trap had worked. The war was over. The galaxy had survived. But Earth was gone forever. Weeks later, monuments were built on hundreds of worlds. Humanity became more than a species. It became a legend. Children learned their story. Leaders honored their sacrifice. And every year, the galaxy remembered the day humanity saved them all. For a time, peace returned. Years passed. Then decades. The nightmare was over. Or so everyone believed. One quiet day, deep inside a distant monitoring station at the edge of another galaxy, a lonely operator received a signal. A signal from a place no ship had ever explored. The transmission contained only 4 words. The operator stared at the screen. His hands began to shake. Because the message said, "We found something worse." And far beyond the known universe, something heard the signal and woke up.